Hey, Kevin Lawrence here, and I'm super excited today to be interviewing Lawrence and Co.'s first coach ever, Mr. Dean Ritchey, who's been with me since how many years it is now, Dean? I should probably know that number. It's been how many years, Dean? Do you know? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think we first met probably 7 years ago or so.
Yeah,
So it's been a
yeah,
while.
it's been a
Yeah.
while. And the most important thing to know about Dean is as I've been doing coaching and advisory work for years, and I had a hard time believing that I could bring somebody else onto my team that could meet my expectations of what they did for our clients. And then Dean was an executive at one of the companies I work with, and he went off into his own and did, coaching and consulting. And we got talking about him working with us, and it opened up my mind and opened lots of doors to lots of other things because he does a spectacular job. His clients love him. I learn from him. It's just, yeah, it's awesome to have you on the team, Dean. You've been a huge influence on the firm, me, and obviously your clients. And today we're going to kind of get to know you a little bit better. So thanks for making the time.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this. And I think it's the other way around. I think you've had a huge influence on me, but we'll go from there.
Yeah,
So,
we could start up the Mutual Admiration Club, which we could go on
yeah.
all day. Yeah, well, that's when you work well with people, it's everyone benefits.
Right.
So let's just go like where it all began and like where did you grow up? Where did your life start?
Yeah. I'm a BC boy. I grew up in Kelowna. Basically all my right up till late teens. That's where we were able to play. And anyone that asks, I to this day I say, Kelowna and the Okanagan is like the best four-season place in the world. Beautiful summers. At
Hmm.
that time, great fruit trees. Now it's all grapes, but
Yeah,
still beautiful. And a great winter for skiing. It was a great place to be.
it is. And by the way, that's where I am right now. I can look across the lake and I can see Kelowna, the area that you grew up. And for those of you that don't know where Kelowna is, on the west coast of Canada, where we're based in Vancouver, you drive in over some mountains, about 4-ish hours, and you get kind of a desert region in Canada that goes from Canada all the way down south and heads down towards Palm Springs, at the very, very end. And yeah, so it's our desert region, wine region. Lots of people like to summer up here, and it's also great in the winter. So
Yeah, spectacular.
awesome. Awesome. And so you grew up in Kelowna, and when you got into the work world, what was the first career that you stepped into?
When I was doing some post-secondary school in Kelowna, there was a university that came around recruiting, and they were going to transfer my courses. So I ended up actually in Southern Alberta going to university, and when I was doing that, one of my summer jobs actually turned out to be with Frito-Lay Canada.
Mm.
And I was a salesperson, and the reason I call it was kind of one of my main careers. I've been working, long before that, but career-wise, it's all of a sudden you get things like bonuses and benefits and things along those. Like,
Like a
what
real
is all
job,
this?
a real job.
A
Yeah.
real job, yeah. And so it was a terrific summer work while I was in between my undergraduate program, and that was a catalyst to a future career after my education after my degree was over.
Awesome. How long did you stay at Frito-Lay?
I was with them for just over 7 years,
Wow.
and I think they moved me four or five times during that period of time in those seven
Really?
years, and different jobs and opportunities, and it was spectacular. It was a really it's an amazing organization. So
And where'd you go from there? What was your next stop?
I yeah I was approached by an individual and asked, hey, look, we would love to have someone run our operations for Western Canada, and that was with a company called Sleep Country, which is a national and then
Hmm.
became international company, and was with them for over 13 years. You know, doing all sorts of different things, and traveling around, and leading sales teams, and leading operations teams and P&Ls and things along those lines. It was spectacular. Had great leaders, great company, um, many different mentors through both of those organizations that I still keep in touch with today.
Yeah,
So
I've heard you talk many times about great things from Frito-Lay and Sleep Country, and even you ended up working in the U.S. for a while, I believe, with Sleep
yeah, yeah,
Arizona, I think, if I recall.
yeah. We
Yeah.
had actually acquired a chain of stores there, and I was given the opportunity to go down and run and oversee that business unit. And so to this day, I continue to thank my loving family for graciously saying, "Hey, let's just go."
Yes.
And it was so amazing because you get exposed to it really is a very entrepreneurial environment down there, and just it is a different culture, and there are different mechanics behind how businesses operate, and so being exposed to that and understanding culture and values and things like that was it's just an amazing learning experience. I was there for a few years.
Yeah. Yeah, getting to work and learn how different parts of the world work. When you live in a place like we both grew up in this, and I grew up in just, in BC as well, in Canada, and you get a certain feel and perspective, but when you go to these other places, it opens up your minds a lot.
Well, even within the confines of Canada, if you go from the West Coast to the East Coast, it's a different
Very
dynamic on
different, right?
how the communication style is, and the protocols on how you show up to meetings and things. It's quite
Yep.
different. So yeah.
Yeah, it's great to expand our horizons like that, and work is a wonderful way to do that. Cool. So today, like what excites you to get out of bed every day? Like what is the, excites you most that you get fired up about, excited about in your world today?
It's yeah, no different. I have an opportunity to work with amazing companies, and what I really really enjoy is seeing those executives and those leadership teams come together and really challenge themselves in a way. Not that they didn't know what was possible. I think they intuitively know that they can do it, but just really seeing them challenge themselves and strive to achieve new milestones together and learning together. And I think, anytime that I can put myself in that setting or with a team that's really open to that type of environment just charges me up.
What is it? Like, what does it do for you? Like, why does it charge you? Like, what's in it for you that makes I relate to it. I feel very, very similar. I'm just curious, what is it for you?
I would say when I interact with people, and through when I was within industry or doing what I do now, I saw many people cap their careers, and I cap it because of decisions they were making, or someone told them they couldn't do something, or
Mhm.
and I really don't enjoy seeing people cap their potential, and so if I can help facilitate some form of growth or open some windows on what's possible, and what their hidden, under what is it, multipliers, their hidden genius might be,
Yep.
um, just just trying to really be a catalyst for that, and the excitement that gets when people accomplish things that they didn't know was possible. It's incredible, super super exciting.
I like it. So it's you're, if I was to have a visual metaphor of what it does, is it you're like you've got a bottle opener and you're uncapping where there's limits, you're helping to break those limits out of the way so they keep growing.
And it's
Interesting.
yeah, it's there's and they don't really, sometimes people don't know where they are. They're masked so well they don't realize that
Yeah,
their limits are there until you uncap it, to your as your analogy is.
that's a
So it's
great. I can picture that. There's a story of baby elephants that when they tie their foot and chain it and they put a post in the ground, the baby elephant obviously can't pull it. Well, when they're full grown, I mean, they could pull a house,
oh yeah,
but they're so used to having that chain and they're so conditioned that they don't even know that they have a psychological limit, and they're
absolutely.
held back by a chain that could break in a second.
Yep.
For you, you see that and you love to. That's awesome. I haven't heard
Yeah.
that before. That's great, Dean. Thank you. Let's switch to, like, influences on you. So who has had the most influence on your leadership? If you think, and it doesn't have to be one, it could be a couple, and it.
Yeah.
If you think in your career, or your life, or whatever it happens to be.
I think we're going to give you maybe a couple different answers here. Table stakes are, I've had the opportunity to work with many different leaders that I've reported in through industry over the years, and I've disproportionately been paired up with amazing leaders, ones that were either extremely curious, ones that were extremely tactical, ones that truly understand the core values of engaging people, and so I can think about three or four, yourself, Kevin, when it comes to how you approach and are open and curious. So I'm going to bucket up a bunch of leaders through industry together,
Sure.
and learn. You can learn from anyone,
Yes.
good and bad.
Yes.
and
Yes.
and then, of course, the one that I would highlight more specifically would be, of course, my dad.
Mm,
And it's less from his business acumen and more from his core values acumen, and
interesting.
how you approach people, how you listen to people, how you are respectful,
Mm.
how you continue to learn and challenge yourself. He's a very knowledgeable fellow that was well read, and I think it's the core values piece that I take that you apply to the business acumen.
Interesting. So if there was kind of one, you could boil down the essence of what your dad instilled in you, what would you call that?
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question. My mind goes to this, respect.
Mm,
Is the word, that the overarching respect. You respect what people are saying, respect their perspective,
mhm.
respect the environment that you're in or the culture that you're going in and interacting with. Respect how you're respect what you know, and understand that you can learn more. So
Mm,
I would maybe, that kind of is the word that kind of comes to mind.
that's awesome. As you were saying that, Dean, I was reminded, like with my own father, it was integrity. And I remember being a young entrepreneur in my late teens, early 20s. And me and a buddy were working on something, and I think we were getting a little bit too creative and coloring outside the lines a little too much. And my dad, I remember he never said much, but holy did he have something to say that day.
Yeah.
And I think that's what parents do. Parents
Yeah.
give us guidance, and there's certain things that really imprint. And it's,
Right.
there's their regular behavior, but then sometimes there's moments. Yeah, I
Right.
remember, I remember that moment.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
it really does guide. It guides
Yeah.
who I'm able to work with, and
Hmm.
all how that all connects. So
It is, and not everybody gets that from their parents. Every parent gives different things.
exactly.
And yeah, and it's not until you're a little farther on in life that we appreciate that a lot more. I don't think I wasn't as appreciative of some of that stuff earlier on, but these days I sure am.
Right.
Yeah, awesome. That's very, very, very cool. So through your career, you were, an executive, and then at some point you decided to become, a coach and advisor. What what brought that on? What got you onto this path?
Yeah. I've always enjoyed being part of leadership teams, the dynamic, the dialogue, the debate, and through my entire industry, just really enjoyed that setting. And then I was exposed to various people in industry, and then to someone like yourself, Kevin, coming in and supporting organizations. And I realized that there was a way that I can actually go and learn and support many different teams to and get the impact that has. I love being in industry and being with a dedicated team throughout the career, um, and I miss some of that, some of
Mm,
the daily celebrations that you get. But this, I get the opportunity to impact more teams, seeing them celebrate their successes,
mm.
less me, more them, and I'm learning to just really really love that. So that the catalyst was, I realized I could have a bigger impact,
Ah,
and when I realized that, then it was matching myself with how I could go about doing that.
interesting. So to put it in from the earlier part of the conversation, you realized you could help uncap the potential of more
Right.
people, aka a bigger impact, but with more
Right.
organizations. Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Let's dig into the work that you do. How would you describe Part A is how would you describe the work you do? And then secondly, what is your favorite part of the work, or what we would call your sweet spot?
Yeah. The work that I do is generally supporting teams around gaining alignment, energy, excitement around building momentum and growth in their business. Energy, excitement, alignment. Um, Nowhere in that does it say I tell them what they need to do. Um, it really is aligning their thoughts and capabilities and investments, and what does that look like? And so that's what I do. I go in and I work with teams to put that all on the table and put it in a form that we can go and execute and move the business and excite the entire organization on how to move it.
Mm.
Ultimately, it's their ideas that we've just pulled out of them and generated a really exciting roadmap based on the unique competency and capabilities of that organization and that team. But that's kind of what I do, is pull that together.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
And within that, what would you say your sweet spot is? Like where you do your best work? Like what's the piece in there where, you know, like not only do you feel great, but great things happen, you know, in the room with the team you're working with?
Yeah. The sweet spot for me is when I'm aligned on core values with the organization. So that's the sweet spot.
Yeah.
It's not about the complexity of the business or things like, it's entrepreneurial minded, open to growth and innovation, and willingness to debate and challenging the status quo and all that stuff. The sweet spot is when I'm in with like-minded people that are leading an organization, good things happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And that's my experience as well. And that's why we take time to get to know people before we commit to working with them.
Absolutely.
Because when that mismatched, it's no fun. It drains us. I'm sure it's hard for them. And you don't get up to that flow state of your sweet spot because it's a grind, because you're mismatched.
Well, and it becomes disingenuous. Like you're selling something versus being a part of it and really believing where the group is going. And so for me, that's my test. And then taking those principles to various industry segments and just having a blast to see where we can take their businesses.
Yeah, I was explaining to someone else. Like, I love the companies that I work with, and I really enjoy the work. We work hard, and I enjoy it. But most of the reason why is that we're aligned from a values perspective. Yep. The people we're working with have a very similar operating system and view of the world. And it makes, there's just good energy, good flow in the work that we do. That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
cool. So the next question I was going to ask, and you may have answered it, but there might be a different twist, but what's your favorite kind of client to work with? And I mean, I agree with you that when there's a core values fit, for sure, like that's almost mandatory. But if you look at your favorite kind of client, like maybe more of the situation they're in or what they need, or maybe from that perspective.
I would have to say, oversimplify, entrepreneurial growth, scaling and growth minded, and open to different perspective, because they don't know it all, because they're growing so fast. Recently working with some SaaS businesses that were scaling faster than which their business acumen matched. And so that was very incredible work. Other organizations that family-based businesses that have just grown internally, but really haven't brought the business acumen attached to that. But they're growing, and they have a mindset of growing. And so where any of those scaling less repeated, like let's just turn and do it the same thing again next quarter. Less that, and more about how do we continue to improve and challenge ourselves.
Right. Well, going back to values alignment, first of all, we have very similar values, but in that belief system too, for me, because you said something really important, is that their business acumen maybe doesn't quite match where they're at. And it's like, they also know it, and they know that they don't know, and they're willing to learn. And that's it's like they're hungry to learn. There's the people that think they know. Well, if you haven't done it a whole bunch of times before, generally you're still a novice in learning. And when they know that they don't know and they're hungry, that makes it very rewarding. And same with you. And when you're doing that and you're growing, those are fun companies to work with. And we add a lot of
Right.
value because there's opportunities that we can help fill a lot of big gaps for them.
So much so, and it's not that I have all that. It's that we can connect them with the right resources,
Yes.
and pull in so that now they're I'll use the term like their buffet that they can pull from is a bigger, more robust buffet that they
Yes.
can now leverage the tools that are available to them. So
Right. It's like giving a chef access to more fresh spices, some of which they didn't even know existed,
well
and
said.
or techniques, and bring in different things to the. Yeah, it's awesome. Cool.
Yes.
I don't know. I just think I feel so fortunate to do this work, and obviously work with you and people like yourself too that get to do the same work. Let's switch to tools. What is in your mind the single most powerful tool you use with clients? And I know you have lots of tools that you use and lots, but if you were to pick the one that you believe has the biggest impact on the companies you work with,
Yeah.
and it's sorry.
You know, the way it's framed up, that for sure. All from a strategy standpoint, it's our one-page plan for sure. It takes the messy and synthesizes something down that's actionable, because a lot of times strategy is abstract. And
Yeah.
so when I think about that as a broader tool, woven within that, flywheel probably comes to mind, helping organizations understand their economic model and how they actually build momentum and scale, is one component of that much larger tool. But for sure, from a strategy standpoint, simplifying strategies so it's something that people understand.
Yeah, what is it about that one-page plan? And we've, modified it along the way and
Yeah.
years. We spent a bunch of time tweaking it last year and into this year. What is it about that? Why do you think that tool is so impactful? I agree with you. I'm just, what is it you see happens in the room for the teams that
The value we've created using it is it takes people from a direction. It creates a North Star for the group, and then actually cascades it right through to what do I need to do next week to make that North Star a reality. And it's all woven in there, and connecting those dots along the way seems to create a visual image for people. It says, I understand what it means that success looks like. And so if the group does an amazing job crafting and filling that in, it's like, hey, I actually see how the work that we're doing tomorrow takes us in the direction of where we want to be. And I really think that that's the value of that.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, and as you said, even in the beginning as well, the thing that it's just, even for us in our own firm, it reminds us what's most important. Like you said, there's the North Star, and then the work we've agreed we got to do to get there, because we get pulled in so many different directions, and we continually get regrounded in it. Keeps us focused on the stuff that matters. Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about most important things, and just making sure you have carved out time for those most important things. And our one-page plan helps us identify what that is. So at least I know what I'm carving out time to work on in my weekly schedule or my monthly schedule. So,
yeah. And it's meaningful and important and aligned to everyone else. That's awesome. Cool. Switching gears, we talk about resilience a lot, and with our clients and ourselves internally. And so what are your biggest resilience rituals? What are the things that you do to keep Dean charged up and at his best?
Yeah. So we spend a lot of time talking to our clients around resilience rituals. You want to show up as strong as you're showing up.
Yep.
So I'm very mindful of that. For me, two things come to mind. I need to work. The most important resilience ritual is to work with people that are expiring to work with, not draining. So organizations. So designing my work environment is a resilience ritual with amazing organizations, amazing leaders. If not, it's draining and pulls me the other way. And secondly, I believe in the power of pushing yourself a little. And so for me, running, of course, reading and all that, that's just what we do all the time. but for me, running, because I can always push myself. It's a mental thing, not a physical thing. And anything that I can push myself to a new milestone just opens up more stuff. And so that's why I like the resilience. What running gives me, long distance running gives me, is that. So
That's awesome. I've heard you talk about running often. I know it's a big part of your life. I never thought about the piece about the designing your environment of who you work with, because it's so true. You could work on your running and your mental clarity. Like for me, I like to write and I like to get outdoors. All that stuff is great. But if you take that being charged up and you go work with people that drain you, it doesn't matter. All that it's out the window in 7 seconds.
Exactly.
That is a brilliant insight, Dean. Yes, the people that you choose to work with are so critical. And that's probably why I have so much energy most of the time, because I get to work with amazing people all day, every day, or by choice. By choice.
And it goes back to most businesses. The number one rule: surround yourself with people that that will take you to where you want to go, not take you back to where you've been. And so from a resilience perspective, that's super, super important to me.
That's awesome. That's, as someone who's written a book about resilience, that is a new thought right here live in a moment. I'm glad we're recording this. That was brilliant.
There you go.
Thank you for that. It was great. So to kind of wrap up, the last question is, what is the best advice you have ever received?
I work with it. This actually will kind of connect a couple of dots through our conversation today. I worked with a manager at Frito-Lay many years ago, and this guy was relentless. Every day he worked in Southern Alberta. I worked in Calgary at that time. He'd come up every couple of weeks, and he'd say, "Hey, Dean, great," and he'd give me more stuff, and I said, "Okay, great, give it to me." And then one day he came back, 6 months later, and we were chatting, and he was giving me more stuff, and I said, this fella, I go, "Hey, are you like simply trying to kill me? Because every time I see you, you're just giving me more stuff. Like, when is enough enough?" And so I remember vividly, he said these words. He goes, "Dean, it's not my responsibility to cap your learning. That's your responsibility." And when you say enough's enough, then enough's enough. But I will never be the one to cap your learning. You will have to cap it yourself. And so that has always resonated with me. When I work with leadership teams, it's not my responsibility to cap their learning. It's their responsibility. And so we're just going to keep it coming. And you'll let me know when enough's enough.
Oh, I love that. Because by not giving someone more, essentially you're capping them. You're perceiving their limits for them.
Exactly.
So interesting. That's awesome, Dean. Well, hey, this was a lot of fun. And, as you know, I really appreciate you and all your contribution to the team, to your clients, to me. You're giving me lots of great advice along the way. And thank you for sharing your story and your experiences. This was very insightful. And what an awesome career you've had so far. And we know it continues to go, and you continue to help and uncap more people. Dean, the uncapper.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchey. There you go. Thanks, Kev. That was awesome.
Thank you.
All right.